right, everybody, welcome back to the Insiders Lounge. Today we have episode 9 already on the books, and we have another special guest today. We have Marcus. Marcus, thanks for coming on, and feel free to give yourself an introduction to everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. Thanks for having me. This is Marcus Hanson. I guess I'd like to call myself the founder of FTF Canada. I don't like titles like CEO and things like that too much, but founder of FTF Canada. And yeah, pleasure to be joining you, Chad. I know we've connected for the last couple of years at some events through soccer, through the Canadian soccer community. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
No worries. That was a good introduction. It was a humble one. Let's get things started. I want to really hear, obviously FTF. We can get more into that later on, but let's hear your story first. So, what was your kind of early days like playing soccer? I'm assuming you grew up in Canada, right?
Yeah. Born and raised in Mississauga.
Okay.
So I think similar to you, I know we were just chatting beforehand, but yeah, I'm a Mississauga boy. And I was actually a dual sport athlete for a while, up until about grade 11. I took soccer just as seriously as I took basketball. They're actually both like two of my biggest passions. Something, yeah, I just love, truthfully. Basketball. Not a lot of people know that now, but yeah. So I just grew up, and then when you're 6'1", about 180 pounds as a basketball player, you're considered undersized. And when as a soccer player, you're considered like a prime prospect. So my dad kind of told me, I think it's time to put the basketball away and start focusing a little bit more seriously on soccer. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. But growing up wise, I played on the soccer side, played for North Mississauga. I was always big for my age, so I played a year up. I'm a 94 born, so I played with some 93s who, Daniil Henry being one of them was one of my teammates, and a couple of other guys who were like that first generation of TFC in the academy, and then eventually played my age. I went to play at a club called Dixie. We had a very good 94 team with some players that are doing some cool things now, like Ryan James, who's now on Halifax Wanderers and stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of my club soccer career. And then in the basketball space, just played like Monarchs, played a lot of AAU basketball, Mississauga Monarchs, and yeah, some AAU basketball. So I was taking both pretty seriously up until grade 11, but it was some good times. Definitely some good times.
And then kind of getting things into, so you obviously played up basically your full career, but getting into kind of the college side of things. What was that? Because obviously I still see it today. FTF, as we'll get into later, has helped that process a lot for Canadians kind of getting into the college scene in the States as well as in Canada. What was that initial kind of trying to get that position into getting into an American college? Was it a difficult process, or was it maybe easier for you? What was that time like?
For sure. My recruitment process actually, it was actually somewhat easy, I would say, based on me like living it on a day to day right now. And it's kind of something that I do. We're not an agency at all, but just seeing players go through the different processes from an event company standpoint. I think my process was actually pretty easy. I committed actually a full ride to Temple University in grade 10. So like I was super early in the process. Like a coach kind of knew someone, one of the older teams, so my older Dixie team, this guy named Tony Ronca knew somebody and got me connected with Temple. I went down for a visit. I love the school, and basically like verbally committed on the spot without really knowing much. And that was like, I think summer of grade 10. I was probably going into grade 11 in September. So I was like done with my recruitment. My team's planning all these showcases, and I'm like, I don't even need them. Like we're out of here. And then yeah, when my recruitment kind of took a turn was in my grade 12. I remember the Disney showcase. It was like right after that. There was some kid, I think the U17 World Cup was coming up or something like that. And there was a Philadelphia born kid who was like really good in Temples in Philly. His name was Jared Martinelli. I'll never forget this. And then the coach asked me, he's like, can you take a gap year? Like, can you come in 2013? Because we want to bring in Jared basically with your money. Without saying it with those easy words. And I was just like, shoot, like that changes everything for me. Like I thought I was going to be gone, all this stuff. So my mom wasn't really, she's big on school. My dad's a principal. So they were pretty big on school. So they're like, what are you going to do? Just staying for, well, what we call in Ontario, like grade 13 or a prep year, I think they call it in the States. Like you have good grades, like you might as well just open back up your recruitment. So that's what happened. Open back up the recruitment. I ended up going to which at the time was called SC Toronto, but now it's basically called Vaughan High Performance with Patrice Geyser, who's the coach of Halifax Wanderers now. And yeah, we went on. So he scheduled all these Division One exhibition games. So we went down on like a Pittsburgh road trip, and this is my first time kind of playing with the team. We faced like Pitt, we faced Robert Morris, we faced this D2 school. We basically had like 5 games in like 3 days. If anyone knows like the Vaughn High Performance Patrice system, like he just stacks all these games and it's up to you to like play well. We faced Duquesne, I remember that too. And I was playing like garbage basically the whole showcase. Like I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't really like I didn't score and I was a striker, so I didn't score against any of the teams. And then we're on our way back. And I'll never forget this conversation because I was in the car with Patrice, but he calls the university. He literally drives by the campus and he sees the University at Buffalo like sign. So he was like, you know what? I know that coach. I'm going to call him, see if he wants a game. So this is like 12 o'clock. The coach is like, yeah, we're training right now. Come play us. So it wasn't even a scheduled game on our docket. So we roll up to University of Buffalo, and we just play them in the spring. And literally first 10 minutes of the game, I caught we kicked it long. The center back kind of headed it back into play, and I caught a nice volley, and I ripped it from about 35 yards. And it went top corner. And then after the game, the Buffalo coach was like, yeah, I want that kid. And history was made from there. I signed a couple weeks later to go to University of Buffalo in 2012 instead of reclassifying for 2013. So like I said, very an easier process than I think a lot of people go through these days, but it's just kind of the luck of the draw.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. That's crazy. And then so 3 out of the 4 years you captained the team, right? I think that was what I read. So your last 3 years. So what
Yeah.
was the whole kind of college experience like? Like, did you enjoy it? Was it good football wise? How was the whole thing?
For sure. University of Buffalo was the best experience of my life. Looking back on it, just the ups and the downs, and just kind of how it shaped me as an individual. Yeah, coming into the school, so my parents really put some pressure on me to like commit there. I didn't know why at the time. It actually turned out like when we got the offer, I was like, yeah, like, well, we have time. I can take that prep year, like Temple's still in the back pocket. Like, why do you guys
Hmm.
want me to commit? So my dad actually got diagnosed with prostate cancer at the time, but they didn't tell me. They didn't want that to affect my decision. And then after I decided Buffalo and I was comfortable with the school, then they let me know, like, yeah, that's why we want you to go to Buffalo because it's an hour and a half away. And I think he missed 3 home games in 4 years. So he was like always at my games. So it was great that's why I said going to that school and people think of Buffalo and sometimes it gets a bad knack. I know
Hmm.
you're a Niagara guy yourself, Chad, but like to think of it like the armpits of America, or like Detroit and Buffalo. But yeah, it's really not. It definitely is cold. There's definitely a lot of snow, but the campus was beautiful. 40,000 undergraduate students. Like it's a massive school, State University of New York. They have like a region of schools. So yeah, my experience at UB was phenomenal. A lot of losing in the first 2 years, I would say, which was tough. I think that's where the downs came. So when I came in, I got recruited by an interim head coach, David Hesh. He's now the assistant at Niagara now, and then his interim tag expired, so they ended up bringing in a new coach named Stu Riddle, and Stu came in and basically cleaned house from the program. Like we had 15 returning guys. I think 3 ended up staying in 2013. So I'm a sophomore. We're like looking around the dressing room. We see all these freshmen and stuff like that, and I'm like an older guy now. And then Stu's like, "Yeah, you're also going to be captain as a sophomore." So that was I definitely wasn't ready. I definitely didn't know what I was getting into. It looks cool now that I can say I captained the team for 3 years, but truthfully speaking, I definitely know I wasn't up to scratch. But I learned a lot. We lost a lot. We lost a lot in those first couple of years, but the last year, my senior year was a great year. We made the MAC conference tournament. We had a really good winning season, and then the year after that, those like younger boys who came in as freshmen their last year, before they actually shut the program down, which is kind of sad. They had another good year. and really we were able to turn around that program, kind of that like typical redemption story. So yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Definitely a great time.
And then more on the educational side. So I think you got your, if I'm reading here right, your international and intercultural communication degree from Buffalo.
Yeah, so I got a communication and political science degree from Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then a master's degree in sport and fitness admin, right? From Brock.
Yeah, so it's
Do
like
I have this right?
masters of it was a sport management master's degree. I
Sport
did my
management. So
master's at
yeah.
Brock. Yeah.
So how were those? What was the experience like picking those up? Like, how is your educational kind of background? And then now, do you find that those relate to your day to day work? Like, are they effective in what you got?
For sure. So when I was younger, I always wanted to be a broadcaster. Even my wife, like I'm always listening to like First Take, like Colin Coward, Nick Wright, like all those guys on ESPN and Fox, because that's actually what I wanted to do. I wanted to like talk about sport and kind of be like an insider, an analyst. So when I went to Buffalo, there was no journalism program. There wasn't even a journalism minor, but then the coach was like, the closest thing we have is communications. So if you want to do that. So yeah, I got into communications and political science. I was looking at it and I saw that the electives were kind of the same if you wanted to get a double major in it or whatever the case may be. So I was just like, yeah, let's just throw that on there as well. Come out with as much as I can get going in there. So yeah, and then going to Brock was just one of those things. I want to do, either go to law school or get my master's degree in some capacity. So decided to end up, I'm like, you know what, let me just try out, let's get a master's degree. I think I want to stay in sport. That was always my goal. So then ended up getting that. But to answer your question, how it's kind of shaped my day to day, I think the communication aspect, being able to write, even though it was a communications degree, I took a lot of writing courses because I wanted to be a journalist. Like anything they had, sports writing, journalism, anything that was writing related, I was basically taking. So I'm able, I would say I'm a pretty decent writer, in terms of how that has helped the company and like show your professionalism and things of that nature when you're kind of starting out. And then yeah, from the master's degree at Brock, I don't think necessarily business related it's helped, but like on my day to day activities, what I do from whenever I wake up to whenever I rest my head, but just being able to have conversations with people. And I think having a little bit more respect when you come to the table, like, I feel like people, they just view you, like you've taken your education seriously and things of that nature. My sports management program, I don't mean to make fun of Brock at all, but I thought it was a complete waste of time. It was just really a big research paper. There wasn't much application done. There wasn't like we were like I know some other people who have done sports management programs and they're like in with MLSC or they're shadowing. Like one guy did in Washington. He's like, yeah, I shadowed the Washington Capitals assistant general manager. This guy was mentoring. He did it in San Diego, and he was like, yeah, I'm doing this application here. There was no real application at Brock. It was just like do your research paper. Mine was on yeah, basically how social media is used in sport recruitment. So I guess that has helped, an FTF standpoint at least. So maybe I'm not giving it as much credit as I should. But yeah, it was definitely not as much application as I assumed. But I think just having the title and and the notoriety, I think helps a little bit.
And then you were talking a little bit about broadcasting. So while I was kind of researching your name and finding everything out about you, I saw you were an analyst on One Soccer for a CPL game. I think it was York versus someone.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? I'm sure that was like a lifelong dream completed by going on there.
For sure. Yeah, it definitely was. So that year, I think we were just kind of coming out of COVID,
Mm.
and One Soccer had an analyst on there. She's now moved on to coach at Tigris, and I think she's looking for her next coaching opportunity. But Carmelina Moscato, former Canadian women's national team player. So and we connected once, and it was a great conversation. And she just had some questions about some of the CPL guys. She's like, "Hey, do you know something about this guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I actually do. I played with him." Or, "Do you know what formation these guys might do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think I do." Like Bobby was one of my coaches when I played League One in Sigma. Like he's a 433 guy. So I was able to kind of give, I think I was like her insider before she went on air. And then her life started getting busy or whatever the case may be. So she kind of put my name into the One Soccer Crew. And was like, by the way, like if you guys like my analysis, this is kind of where I'm getting all the information from. This guy that runs FTF Canada, his name is Marcus, blah, blah, blah. So then we connected. And that was super cool. It was a great experience. I came in, yeah, like you said, for a game. They needed some coverage, and they said, "Hey, yeah, test it out," and it was fun. I no regrets at all. I think the biggest thing, or the thing I took away from it the most, was like I should have maybe planned for a little bit more. We had an event that day, so I was on the
Oh
field
man.
setting up an event from like 6 a.m. to basically 5. I think the game was like a night game at 9, so I was just super exhausted. I remember I had like a few energy drinks. I just remember one of the times when I was talking, I think I like stuttered. And I was like, I don't normally stutter, but the reason I was stuttering was just because I was just full on energy drinks. Like I was just trying to stay awake because I was
Yeah.
so tired from the event. But yeah, no, it was a great experience, and yeah, I have a lot of respect for those guys at One Soccer. We've been able to collaborate since, and it's been cool.
Very cool. And then you said growing up, you were kind of a dual sport athlete, and then later on, I could see in your career you went on to be the technical director for Mississauga Monarchs, and then you were a brand ambassador for Nike Jordan campaign, and then you also went on to work with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, even football
Yeah,
as well. What were those experiences like? Kind of working in the sports industry, and then how did they reflect on now working with, like and starting FTF?
for sure. So when I graduated, I like I said, I always wanted to be involved in sport. I like all sports, I would say. Like I'm not just like a one sport guy. Like soccer is obviously up there, and my family jokes around with me like that you run a soccer company, but your first love is truthfully basketball. I think my close friends actually know that, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, I was just trying to stay involved with sport. Mississauga Monarchs was the youth basketball club I grew up in, and they're pretty prominent in Mississauga. So they had some openings, and I was working with them and just kind of getting the background of like what a sports organization needs on a day to day, like little things like the organization of what size jerseys you need. Like I was doing very basic admin work, like how to talk to a parent when something's going wrong, or how to accept a registration, what online portal is kind of the best or easiest way for parents to use. So I think I took a lot of those things, and it was like pretty easy to implement from an FTF Canada standpoint. Like when we were speaking to our web designers and our contacts, like it wasn't too difficult because I'm just like, yeah, I've seen this before at the ground level there. And then yeah, Hamilton Tiger Cats was a very cool experience too. I think they're just your professionalism, like at a professional sport level. Forge was people that know in the CPL, like the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Forge have the same owner. So being able to connect with and just see how that whole thing was going on. And then when they found out I was a soccer player, they were like asking me. I was like the soccer guy in the office. Like they were asking me all the questions, like, yeah, what would soccer players like, or can you find this, or can you do that? Like, what should we name the team? I remember was one of the questions that came up before they actually announced that they were going to be the Forge. So just little things like that. So I think the professionalism what I learned from the Tie Cats, and then the Nike Jordan thing was literally just like an all-star weekend, friend of a friend. Um, my brother and I we just helped out with the Nike Jordan brand. They had it was the Toronto All-Star weekend. I think there's like a famous dunk competition that happened there, but that was just cool just to meet people. I got to meet Michael Jordan, Kawhi Leonard, like Russell Westbrook. So that was just an experience thing in and of itself. I don't think I learned anything that weekend. I think I was just in awe by the time we stepped through those doors. But yeah, it was all cool, all very fun.
No, that's awesome. And then let's get into kind of the FTF side of things. So do you want to explain to people what is FTF, what do you guys do, and yeah, how's it been so far?
For sure. So yeah, FTF Canada is we're a digital sports media and events company by our name or by our core. So what that looks like is we just try to use like media to help promote athletes in a way. We have a pretty big social media following, and that's where we try to provide that exposure. So that's where the digital media side comes in. We also work with some clubs and some brands and some academies and agencies from a digital media side as well. So graphic design, highlight tapes, whatever the case may be. We actually have like a brother company who kind of takes more of that on now, which is called SS Visuals. So they're kind of head streaming that. So that's the digital media side. And then the event side is we literally speaking just want to be the go-to event company for soccer in Canada. That's where we want to hang our hat. I remember when I was going through my process, just every weekend was going to the States. We got to go to this tournament because this coach is going to be there. We got to go to this tournament because this person's going to be here. And it was mostly collegiate based. And with the professional game growing in our country now, with the CPL, with the three MLS teams, and then all the scholastic opportunities that are presented in the States and Canada, we just wanted to create an event system that provided more exposure for these athletes. Happy to say, I think we're doing a pretty good job of it over the last 4 years. I think there's been directly or even indirectly like over 1,000 players that have gone through our events and then gone on to post-secondary opportunities, whether that's like being scouted at the event, using the highlight tapes for the event to kind of create your own pathway, or maybe getting identified by a collegiate agency, working with them, and then going on to your pathway. So we pride ourselves in just providing as much exposure and opportunity for Canadian soccer players. That's what we like to hang our hat on, and continuously trying to get better at it.
What were some of the like initial ideas for getting it started? Like what really brought you to think, okay, I'm going to start this? Was it initially just an events company and then you kind of went more into the media side? How did the first initial conversations go?
Yeah, good question. So there's a company in the basketball space. This is where kind of like
Mm.
my basketball influence comes in. But when I was growing up, I remember I was just sitting in my college dorm. We were just kind of talking among some guys at school, and I was just like, yeah, like I don't know what it was, and maybe it was just my love for basketball. But uh, when I was growing up, I loved going to my basketball games more than my soccer games. Like if I had a tie, like I remember one time we were going to some tournament in the States. I don't know. It wasn't even a good city. Call it Buffalo. And then I had like a provincial team, Ontario soccer practice or something. I would want to go play basketball. And I'm like, but it wasn't, but something bothered me because everyone was just like, yeah, you just like basketball more. But it wasn't that. And when I figured what it was, it finally hit me kind of like when I was graduating, was just like, the reason why you liked it because there was more exposure. Like there were just more cameras at games. There was more people talking about the sport. Like if I scored 25 or 30 points in a game, I was probably going to see it on some blog post, or someone was going to be talking to me about it or something like that. But in soccer, like if you could have scored 6 goals in a OISL game back in the day, and no one really would have known. I don't think there was like an award ceremony after the year was over. Like it wasn't really talked about to the degree of what basketball was. Like no one was there. So I'm like, hey, how can we change that? Like, how do you bring about that change? So that's a kind of where the digital media side came in. Like at the start for FTF, we were just trying to just expose athletes, and we always knew we were going to be hosting events because we knew from a business standpoint that was probably going to bring in the revenue and stuff like that. But at the start, and still to this day, like we just want to expose athletes. So we were standing behind goals, kind of like what social media admins are doing now, like just trying to get every clip of every game that we can and post it on our tag these kids, post it, they can repost it, and just have them have that feeling that I guess basketball was getting in the region for the last little bit, and then the name starts to grow, and then when your name starts to grow, then you kind of start putting events together, and there's scouting that comes into it because then the coaches want to know, hey, how do you even know that good players are good players, and it's just about getting out there. So, um, yeah, I think they kind of came hand in hand. To be honest, like we always knew we wanted to do events, but you had to kind of get your name out there first to show that like what your event actually is going to be. So it kind of went hand in hand, long story short. It was like a scouting digital media side of things, and then eventually like getting into the events once we felt like we had a big enough following, and people were kind of believing in what we were doing.
And we'll get more into kind of the future. What I want to know what you have planned to kind of grow into.
For
But
sure.
first, what were some of the biggest challenges even now to this day with FTF?
Yeah, biggest challenges with FTF was kind of trying to explain who we were to people. a lot of people didn't even get it. Even like some of my clubs that I grew up playing with, people I really had a lot of respect for, everyone just thought, oh, you guys are going to become into a club, or you guys are going to be an academy soon, or you guys are going to be an agency. So there's a little bit of reluctance at the beginning just to kind of affiliate with us, because even though that's not negative, but no one wants to just give their players up to X, Y. They didn't know how we were going to actually be an assistant rather than like just, okay, yeah, we have all this recognition now. We're just going to turn into a club and basically F everybody off in the end. So yeah, there was explaining that to people, because what we did was never done before. So it's not like we could say, oh, we're going to be like this person because you know them. Like we were kind of just, and still to this day, we're trying to like, especially people that a lot of people do know us now across Canada, but like previously, like just trying to explain that to people and what we're trying to do, I think was the biggest challenge at the beginning. Now it's a little bit easier, I would say, and I think that the biggest challenge now is ironically just making sure we're doing things that bring value, of course, because now everyone wants to partner, wants to work with us, which is fantastic. But we just have to like make sure we're not doing too much and dropping the ball on things that we know are maybe a little bit more important. Like as an event company, you would love to be running an event every week, but how much energy, how much time are you going to have to put into another event? So just making sure we're kind of balancing our calendars, our agendas, and making sure we're giving it 120% into everything that we do. Long story short.
And what are some of the like greatest stories that have come out of it, or just something where you realize like, wow, we did this, like we finally made it, or something like that? Do you have any stories like that?
Yeah, definitely a couple. Some that come to mind, they're more athlete related, but like seeing seeing guys like when we first recognize them to like become professional players or whatever the case may be. In different walks, like I would say, like Muslim Umar, who's a player at Portland University right now. Like he was just a random kid in Edmonton that we saw in our first year of doing the combines, and he won MVP, and we thought he was really good. And then as the years go by, like, he was our first ranked player as well. So like he was the first number one ranked player in our ranking board. And yeah, to see him, he had trials. He had some like international trials at Bayern Munich. So to see that was really cool, and like them referencing like he was the number one ranked player from FTF Canada, like on their socials and stuff like that was pretty neat. And then seeing him get a full scholarship to Portland University was really cool because we know Nick now, and who's the head coach there, and we built a cool relationship with him. So a lot of like athlete related things I would think would be pretty cool. In terms of like making it, just being able to affiliate, like having some of the nation's best at your events. Like we were one of the first teams or first organizations to have like NDC Ontario and the PEF, which is the Performance of Excellence here in Quebec, at our events, like at the same time, competing against each other against non um, NDC players, which is pretty cool. Having TFC, we've had TFC at our events over the last couple of years, and on an individual level and a player level. So just having those like organizations within Canada, like believing in what you're doing, they've been so kind of against like really participating in things in the past and kind of breaking down those barriers and seeing what those have come to. I think those were the biggest things, and just our company as well. I think would be the last one. Just being able, like now we have basically five full-time employees, which is really cool. Like the only thing they do is FTF. Oh, everyone always asks me, they're like, "Oh, well, like what else do you do?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "I know, like we've been able to build this thing. Like this is it, and this is it for about five people, and growing too. We're in the growth phase, so I think those things would be like the biggest accomplishments. I think I could we could hang our hat on for sure.
No, that's really good. You spoke a little bit about your staff there. I know you don't really like the mentioning the role of being CEO.
Mhm.
But as CEO, what are your like day-to-day tasks? Like what do you find yourself doing the most of if someone was interested?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, I guess as de facto CEO, founder of the company, it's just kind of the weeks are very scheduled. Long story short, like Monday to Friday, there's an execute plan basically every single day on what needs to get done. The start of the week. So if you were to say like what's happening on Monday, Tuesday, we have our big team meetings. We all work remotely, so some people are like, hey, can we meet Monday? And I just have to tell people like, no, Monday is just not going to be an option, just because we have like two big team meetings, with one with our marketing team, another one with our team, and then to begin the week we have like individual meetings. So just meeting with our team one on one, just making sure every single week you're talking to your team members, because different types of dialogue can come up from there that maybe don't come up, especially when you have a small team. Like people are going through little things. And so I find it very important to have those one-on-one meetings just weekly, just to kind of see how the team's feeling. Like, hey, what you get done this week? What do we need to push? Like, how are you doing? Just having those one-on-ones kind of starts out the week. And then as the week kind of goes slower and later and later, like Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays, that's when you start to get your own work done. And that can be a range of different things. That could be invoicing, that could be meetings with like potential new partners, meetings with current partners, meetings with college coaches, because they always want to know what recruits need to be, or who's the best in the game. Meeting with professional clubs, because they want to know what's going on. So yeah, and then a lot of outreach in different capacities, just about our different events, looking at different fields, different venues. Yeah, there's so much. I literally just tell everyone, just there's probably the only thing I can't do is make a highlight video or do some graphic design. Like I leave that to the experts, but everything else, there's marketing plans. We're trying to launch this new thing called the Playbook in 2024, which is like an online subscription platform, like a scouting platform. So kind of building that. It's just all those things get jammed into a week, and that stuff's kind of at the tail end. And at the beginning, you're kind of doing your business management like on the Monday, Tuesday, and working with the people on your team. So it's interesting. Like we have a showcase coming up next week. So this week it's scheduling. Like you're making the schedule for the showcase, how to fit 54, 60 plus teams on a weekend under 4 fields. That's what's going into it this week. So every week, which makes it fun, because no 2 weeks are the same. No two
Mm.
weeks are the same.
And then we spoke a little bit before kind of recording. We mentioned how you just got married. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
What's it like? Because you guys are working almost on a day-to-day basis together, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's that
Literally.
like? Because that can be a difficult spot when you have to balance like being in a relationship as well as having that business relationship and working together.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, Makaya, my wife, she's everything. She's been there since the beginning. Our first like meeting with FTF, um, with Henry, who's a founder of the company, co-founder of the company as well. We met in Makaya's condo. It was and that was like the first meeting of it. She's from Montreal. We've moved to Montreal since, but she had a condo in Mississauga, and I told Henry to come over when we were seeing each other. And like our first ever talk about FTF Canada was actually with her. So she's literally been there from day one. But yeah, she's super supportive. She helps with everything that we have going on. She's super smart, and she just understands the business. I think because it's literally obsessed my life for the last 7 years that we've been going out and now married. I think she's just as passionate, and she cares just as much, and she wears just as many hats as I do, and really helps things tick on. Does a lot of things within the company that a lot of people don't want to do, like a lot of our administration stuff. I remember like data entry stuff when we used to manually accept registrations and all these things. Like she's literally been there since day one. So yeah, that dynamic isn't too difficult now. I think we have a pretty good mix of it. We know when it's like sometimes you're just like, hey, we're not going to talk about work tonight. Like
Mm.
let's just change the subject. Let's be husband and wife for at least a couple of hours. But it does. There are times where it's just what you live. But when you're passionate about it and you enjoy what you do, you don't complain about it. You're just happy you'll be able to be put in that position. Long story short.
For sure. So now we kind of get into, I call them the insiders lounge favorites.
For sure.
I always say it's selfish for me because I mainly just want to learn from people and hear what they have to say.
Definitely.
The first one is I always speak on it. the soccer kind of football industry as a whole is just a roller coaster. Whether you're a player, the emotional roller coaster is just insane. What were some of your personal challenges that you kind of realized today were really powerful for your career and just your life in general?
For sure. Personal challenges. I think the biggest thing for me was or a couple big things, especially when we had that like losing time at Buffalo. When we literally won. I think we won in my freshman year. I think we won 3 games. Sophomore year, maybe like another 3 games. Junior year won like 6 games, and we thought that was amazing because we doubled our record, but we're still below 500. And then the last year is when we I think we won like 10, 11 games, and we're a better team. But just that perseverance, like when you look and it doesn't look like things are going to be likely. You're trying your absolute hardest, and you think you're doing everything humanly possible to change the result, and it's just not going your way. Just having that perseverance, and just realizing that there's a book that I read called Chop Wood, Carry Water. And it's a pretty famous one. A lot of people know it, but long story short, the one of the pillars is just consistently doing things. Just be consistent, more than anything else. Like some things you can't control, um, and and that's just life in general. Like you only control what you can control. Is something I kind of live by, and I think everyone can apply that day to day. If you can do your absolute best and you can hang your hat and say you did it, good things will eventually come. I'm a true believer in that.
I like that. Yeah, it's been mentioned before. I can't remember who mentioned that book, but it's an upcoming question too about books. But the second question, do you have any advice for, like, when I was growing up, I always wanted to work kind of in the soccer industry, but I never
Mhm.
knew the correct path to take, whether it was really the only options as a young kid is you either look at like playing professionally or coaching, and you're like, okay, that's it. But there's so
For
much
sure.
more. Kind of going through that sports management degree and everything, and there's players who are not only playing but also just people that are interested in working within soccer. Can you give advice to people that want to like kind of hear from you on how they could find a potential career in soccer?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would. There's a saying in there like you need to put in 10,000 hours. I know that's a cliche saying. I don't know if that's actually before you become a professional, 10,000 hours, and then you can call yourself a pro. Um, uh, I don't know if that's even true or whatever the case may be. But what I would say is, you definitely want to put yourself in as many situations as you possibly can, and just affiliate with as many people as you possibly can, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come. And take, I would say, and be present in every opportunity that you're in. So we have a lot of interns that reach out to us and they just want to get FTF on their resume, or they just want to be able to put that line item on and go. But the best interns that we've had, the best people that have worked with us as like subcontractors and even our full-time staff, are people that are present. Like they take the job and almost immerse themselves in it like it's their own. And I could speak to that on our team. Like everyone on our team, when they first started out, like you're really trying to find good people and organizations, whether it's professional soccer, whether it's youth soccer, whether you're working for a club, whether you're a scout, whether you're working for us or anything. Like before anything else, they're going to look for good people. Like you might not have the graphic design capabilities, or you might not like have the best eye for talent to start out with, but trust me, they'll rather work with you if you're a good person and you're giving it 110% rather than someone who's maybe amazing at it, but is treating it like it's a pastime. So if I were to say just any opportunity you can seize, I'll never forget this. I tell this story all the time. So TFC were hiring, or MLSC were hiring for brand ambassadors for TFC. So I was like, oh, I'm fresh out Division 1. Like I'm gonna be able to put MLSC on my resume. So I go for the job interview downtown, and the guy asked me the question like, why do you want this job? And I said, the reason I want the job is I want to be the GM of TFC like one day. And and I got the reference through someone I connected with on LinkedIn. So, and I thought that was like something he was going to want to hear. Like he's like, oh yeah, this guy's really ambitious. This is what he wants to hear. ironically though, when I spoke to the guy I got the connection with through LinkedIn, he was like, that is actually the wrong answer. They want someone who's just going to want to do 100% in
Hmm.
that brand ambassador role. Like you're looking too far ahead of things. Like things may come. And that always, so I didn't get the position. And that always stuck with me when I would like go through things, like be present in what you're doing. Like if someone came, and now when I'm looking at it from my standpoint, FTF, if someone's like, yeah, I want to run FTF, but we're hiring for you to shoot a game on Sunday and we're interviewing you or whatever the case may be, and that's the first thing that comes out of your mouth, would be like, well, what's going on here? Like you're missing the steps to the
Hmm.
process. Like that might be your goal down the line, but take it day by day, achieve each task day by day, and potentially, who knows, you might get there. But yeah, just really embrace and be present in the role that you're being given. Long story short.
No, that's really solid. If we were to have this conversation again in, let's say, 5 to 10 years, where do you think you'd be? Where do you think your family situation is, the company, so on? Where do you think that would all end up?
Yeah, 5 to 10 years. So I'm turning 30 in I'm turning 30 in March, so that would be in about 35, 40. Yeah, definitely I'll probably have a few kids by then. I think it would be time by then. So personally, I think that's the stage of my life that I would be in. And then FTF wise, yeah, hopefully we're just growing. Right now, I think we're in 7 provinces running either combines or showcase tournaments. We want to literally be or have presence in 8 to 10. So we want to get to New Brunswick, so we haven't been there yet. We want to get to Winnipeg, Manitoba. We haven't been there yet, and then also running like some sort of showcase, getting our showcase tournaments a little bit bigger in that sphere as well. And I always say this, like you just really never know where your world is going to take you. Like the world is your oyster. Like we get so many different ideas yearly. Like we're partnering with Ontario Soccer on an event this year. So I think just being able to streamline, I think that event space a little bit more. But yeah, in terms of FTF, just continuously growing the company in those types of avenues. And then personally, just for myself, yeah, just I guess starting to build a family here, which is crazy, crazy to think
No,
about.
that's a good. That was a good answer. So we got some quick fire questions. What was the team you grew up supporting, or do you still support a team day to day?
Yeah, so there's only one flag on your wall right now, so that's Arsenal for me.
All right.
I'm a big gunner. Henry on our team, he jokes around. He's like, Thierry Henry has blood on his hands because like everyone who was born in like 1985 to like 1996 or 97, who basically got to watch Thierry in his prime,
Yeah.
are like Arsenal fans, just by him. And then since he's left, they've had to stick along, and it's been a tough time as a fan. Well, not the last couple of years, but previously to
There
that,
was
it's been a
there
little
was a
bit
long
of,
stretch.
there was a long stretch, exactly. So I'm a Gooner. I'm happy we're actually top of the league right now, so that's pretty cool. But we'll see where we finish. We were saying the same things last year, but yeah, I'm an Arsenal fan, die hard.
All right, and then we I mentioned this earlier, but favorite quote or saying? Do you have one?
Yeah, my favorite quote is called "Elite," and it breaks down the word elite. It says, "Excellence lies in the effort." So yeah, that was I went to an elite camp once. Again, going back to my basketball days, and I'm like, and then they had that on the shirts, and it always just stuck with me. So yeah, elite excellence lies in the effort. Is kind of the quote I kind of stand by.
That's an interesting way to put it. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then so where are you based now? Are you in Montreal or the GTA?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, we are going on 3 years ago now. We purchased a place here in Montreal. So yeah, me and the wife are here, just outside Montreal. But yeah, I'm before that, I still call it home in some capacity. But yeah, Mississauga is where I used to live previously.
So, because I always ask the question, I'm a big foodie, and so I love to always hear people's favorite food spots. So, do you have a favorite food spot in Montreal and then maybe Mississauga as well?
100%, yeah. In Montreal, if you do come, I know Montreal is very well known for their poutine. Admittedly, I went here yesterday because whenever I'm in town, so we live about 30 minutes, 35 minutes from downtown. So There was an event that we had for Mikaya's sister yesterday. So there's this place called Orange Julep. Long story short, it's a big orange structure. You can't miss it. It literally looks like a tangerine orange. They have this drink. They're known for their drink. It's like this, like, I don't know. It's some egg-based drink. It's a little weird. Truthfully, I don't like the drink, but their poutine is fantastic. The best one I've ever had. Every time I go down there, or I have to go down there, I make sure and stop and grab one. So yeah, orange julep for a poutine, in Montreal, in my opinion, is A1.
And what do
A1.
you
And
go? Do you
then
just go with the
yeah,
classic
classic. I
poutine?
don't put
Hmm.
anything on it. This one, you don't need to. It doesn't need the bells and whistles. Don't have it. I had it before a meeting yesterday and I got a little sleepy. So don't have it if you have anything going on. But yeah, that's my favorite poutine. And then I like Chinese food a lot. There's a place in Mississauga called Tremendous. Some people know it, some people don't. Kind of just outside Square One there. But yeah, Tremendous for Chinese food in Mississauga is if you're from Mississauga, you're 99% sure you know what Tremendous is, but a lot of people that don't live in there don't know. But yeah, Tremendous for Chinese is A1.
All
A1.
right, I gotta try it out the next time I'm up there.
Definitely. I highly recommend.
Um, and then the next one we got favorite book. Are you a reader? I know some people like reading. Me, I read like one book a year. I try and get through it, but yeah. Do you like reading? And if so, what's your favorite book?
For sure. I would say the Chop Wood Carry Water book
Mm.
probably lies at the top for me. There's a couple of other books. I like to read a lot of autobiographies as well. So I was just getting in, I just finished Charles Barkley's book, kind of his autobiography about his life. So that's more recent. But if I had to pick one of all time, I think like the one that kind of stuck with me is Chop Wood Carry Water. That one's a really good one. They got 9 pillars in there. I've actually wrote them down. I try to read them, just the pillars themselves, on a weekly basis, or not weekly basis, but whenever I kind of come around to it. But yeah, that one I would highly recommend for sure, for just
I'm
anyone in life in general.
I'm currently reading Shaquille O'Neal's biography, and I hate to admit it because on episode one, I think I said I was reading it as well, but
Yeah,
it's a good one. I really like. I didn't know his full kind of story from growing up, so he's lived quite the life, but it's a good one.
for sure, for sure.
And then favorite hobbies outside of soccer. Obviously, you mentioned kind of basketball as a hobby
Mhm.
growing up. But do you have other things to kind of just distract you, or is it just
Yeah.
soccer?
So my team knows, like, kind of after, well, starting the company, like I was putting in so much time, just kind of getting things going. Like every hour, second, minute I was awake was going into FTF. So I kind of lost my fitness a bit for a couple of years. Just like generally speaking, like it was just unhealthy. So over the last couple of years now, I've really like taken working out very seriously. Like in the mornings, that's where I am. Thursdays, that's why we're doing this podcast at 11. But Thursday, my only off day is Thursday. So like I'm kind of like a gym workout freak now, which has been cool. Been able to keep the weight down, so I really enjoy working out. That's a hobby of mine, and yeah, people say I'm pretty boring, but if it's not basketball or working out, I'm probably just watching sports and working on FTF. So, yeah, I don't really have kids now. Now I'm in Montreal. Like my friends, are basically all in Toronto for the most part. So I think that's helped me with the company wise. But yeah, hobby wise, you'll find me in the gym, you'll find me at home working, or you'll find me on a basketball court right now. So yeah, that's kind of it.
All right, and then the last one we got here. If you could sit down for dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why? I always love to hear where people go with this.
For sure. So I won't go like, I think the cliche answer, someone would say like a previous family member or something like that. Of
Hmm.
course, that would be that would be the immediate response. But if I had to pick anybody, ooh, this is a good one. But someone I look up to, LeBron James. I just think his how he's gone about his life, some of the philanthropy things he's done, and just how he's carried himself for the last couple of years. And I think it could just be relatable to anything. He's obviously started a business, so the business acumen, that he has as well. So yeah, that would be my person. If I had to pick a soccer person though, like someone to, it would be Arsene Wenger. Just Yeah, his run with Arsenal, those were like our best days. And just being able to speak with him, pick his brain just about soccer knowledge in general, would be pretty awesome if that was ever afforded to me. But those would be my two. Those would be my two.
I'd recommend. I just listened to Joe Pompliano. He has a sports business podcast. He
Okay.
just interviewed LeBron's agent, and they kind of talk about his whole
Oh,
career
nice.
and how they've built the businesses and everything now. So really, I'll send that to you after because that's a really good one. But
100%.
yeah, thanks for coming on. That was a great episode. Do you have anything you want to shout out before you leave?
Yeah, no. First off, Chad, thank you for having me. Like I said, I know we've been able to connect over these last couple of years, and excited for what you're building here. If any, how we can support it with FTF, just please let me know. In terms of that, yeah, for anyone who's listening, just follow us on FTF Canada on Instagram. I think we're FTF Canada underscore on Twitter. And things that are coming up, just yeah, tap into our website, ftfcanada.ca. We have all of our events listed and the different things that we have going on. I guess in 2024, we're opening up a scouting platform, so that will be something to look out for, like article-based things, almost very similar, like a top drawer soccer type of model for any of the soccer advocate fans, but Canadian soccer only. That's what we focus on. So we're looking to build that in 24. So that's something to look out for. That will be called the Playbook, and yeah, I appreciate your time. I appreciate anyone who's made it this far.
Yeah, there's a lot on the horizon, but I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, we'll speak soon.
Sounds good, my man. Talk soon.
See ya.